Hello everybody, I'm out here today in the woods around Wellington Monument, stood at the base of this huge old beech tree. Was once part of a boundary hedge, I'm told, and if I spin round without making you too dizzy, you can see a length of them stretching away down. And what am I doing out here? Well, sadly I haven't been able to bring Coop. It's too rough here. All this flinty pebbly stuff he finds very uncomfortable to walk on, but just under these trees it's been a really great year for collecting seed, and so I'm just collecting a few beech nuts rather handily. When they're like this, you don't even have to bend down particularly to pick them up, because they're at waist height. Yeah, as they say, I understand that this was once part of a boundary hedge, and then left to grow wild. Could be wrong, but that's what I've been told. If you know, let me know. Some of these trees are just magnificent. Hope that didn't make the blood rush to your head too much, but they're just multi-stemmed, huge, and very, very beautiful. And while I'm here, going to collect up a few acorns, some of which are already sprouting. Getting in quick before the squirrels get them. Okay, for the seed sowing, I'm not going to be too precise with a compost mix. I've got some multi-purpose compost, peat-free stuff, and I've literally got, well, about half a bucket full, and then I'm going to add some potting grit and I'm just going to add some of that completely by eye. These being seeds, they often like a more organic content to the compost than my regular bonsai. So, and then I'm going to add some kitty litter. They say this is a completely different mix to what I would use for a regular tree, and I'm doing this entirely by eye and guesswork. So, and then it's going to need a good old-fashioned mixing, and one of the easiest ways to do that is to get a second bucket and tip from one to the other until you've got a good mix. So that's what I'm going to do. It's not very windy today, but on a windy day this also helps get rid of some of the dust, and the lighter particles can get blown away, but obviously that isn't happening today. Get my hands in there, give it a good mix, and as I say, you can just pour in one to the other. It begins to give it a bit of a mixing. It takes a few times. Keep giving it a shake, and it all begins to mix together rather nicely. Much easier than trying to stir it up with a wooden spoon. There we go. That's pretty good now. apart from these big lumps. I'll get rid of that. Okay, so here's an example of an oak fusion project. The difference between this one and the one I'm starting today is that these were grown from seed separately for a couple of years before I decided to fuse them together into one. I think I'll get more success earlier with seedlings, that's my thought process, than trees that are already several years old and are beginning to grow a quite thick bark, etc. I also have a theory that weeds always grow better than trees, and in fact they do, but there you are, that's neither here nor there. As you can see, even though it's the 10th of November, this tree is still mostly in summer mode and just beginning in a few places to turn to its autumn shades of yellow, and where it is turning there a bit pug ugly, but never mind, can't have everything. So even though I couldn't take, or didn't take Coop up to the woods with me because of that that floor is just too rough for his paws anymore. He's, as I've said before, I believe he's not walking on the pads. He's walking on the pieces in between the pads where his joints are just sort of splaying apart. I did have some poo bags with me, which came in very handy for collecting all of the acorns. I did try not to be greedy. I have been known to confess from time to time that I might have too many trees, but what can I do? It's a bug. Okay, so I've got this old pond basket that I'm going to use. It works quite nicely as an air pot, and I'm just going to start by filling it probably about 2/3. Always remembering this is all the compost I've got, unless I go out and buy some more. So okay, so that's not too bad. I don't want it all the way deep, although oaks have a deep taproot. That will be severed at some point, and if it has to go around the bottom, it'll reach the air, and the air should kill off the tip of the root. That's the theory, causing it to branch. Is that the right word? Roots to branch? I guess so. While speaking of Cooper, I've also half-inched this old toy of his. It doesn't squeak anymore, and he hasn't shown any interest in it in quite some time. I'm going to place that in the centre, like so. Better change up the angle a bit so you can see what I'm doing, and then I am quite simply going to take, and preferably the ones that have started to sprout, I'm just going to place them next door to one another in a ring around this pretend ice cream cone. Fiddly old job. Okay, then I'm going to start. I'm going to make it, I think, kind of oval, as opposed to a perfectly round trunk. Depending on how many acorns I've got. So okay, so that's all the acorns. I might take that one and move it to there. Okay, so now the idea is they will grow, or most of them will grow, hopefully. They will shoot up and I will be able to tie them into this cone and begin the fusion process around this cone and then grow out ahead from that, if that makes sense. Let me know in the comments below if I'm talking twaddle. Because you see, I've no real idea whether this will be a success or a failure. I tried it with some laburnum seeds, as some of you may have seen, and that was an abject failure. But you know, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And to get them covered over without moving them away from the cone too much. He's a very generous dog, my dog. Don't worry, he has plenty more toys. He's just not up to playing with them anymore. And the ones that don't squeak, well, they're not interesting. So I put that to one side, and now I'm going to do a slightly different thing with the beet seeds. They don't have such an incredibly deep, strong taproot as the oak do, so I'm going to just do these in a shallow pot from the get-go. It will likely restrict their growth some. Which may or may not be, well, it probably won't be great in the fusion terms, but what I would like to do is just get them growing and get them away, and then perhaps I can transfer the whole thing into a much bigger pot at a later time. Now, I'm not going to use any kind of cone. What I'm going to do is and this is again a complete experiment. I've had great success growing beech in individual pots, just sowing one or two trees to a small 9 centimeter pot. And indeed, I will show you a picture or show you a bit of video of my forest, beech forest, which is created from trees that I grew from seed, collected in exactly the same place. Now, I'm fairly certain a lot of these might rot. That's assuming the mice and rats and voles and things don't get there first. I'm going to have to find some wire mesh or something to cover them over. And I'm thinking now maybe I should have done this in a bigger pot, but you know what? Hey ho, this is all the soil I've got. So I'm going to cover them over. Thusly. And again, we'll have to give them a drink, and then we'll let the winter sit with them, and they should start to germinate. Yeah, so here's a quick shot of my beech forest. That's 35 trees, all grown from seed collected in the same place, complete with my own little coopy-doo. Always remind me of the days we used to run through there and he used to chase the squirrels. Okay, so give them a good watering in. As I say, I think in the back of the shed I've got some leftover wire netting from when we had to puppy proof the garden many years ago. I hope so anyway, and I will be placing that over the top to deter mice and rats and things that might well come after these acorns and such. In 30 years of living here, I've never seen a squirrel in the garden, but I did find a tree that I dug up out of the garden that had seeded itself, and it turned out to be a walnut. How that got there, we're not entirely sure. Posit the idea that maybe it was a Christmas thing, got put out for compost or whatever. But yeah, not too much danger from squirrels, but definitely mice and voles. And since the cattle shed was built just up the road in the last couple of years, we've had rats on occasion, so they'll need protecting. The oak will grow up around that form. The beech, I'm going to just try and just as they grow up to just commingle them together and gradually sort of plat them, weed them, convince them to grow together, much like those platted ficus plants that you sometimes see in the garden centre. So there we have it, another silly project underway. Why do I do these things? Well, because they're fun. I had a nice walk, collected a few seeds. I've spent 20 minutes or so faffing about, mixing up my seed and sowing my seeds, and I will get a thrill when I start to see green shoots poke their head up. Watch out for a video on those in the spring. Or another success or failure, there'll be a follow-up. So that's all. So please do all the usual YouTube things, the liking, the subscribing, the commenting. Let me know what you think down below. But most of all, please stay safe, everybody.